Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of Carpo's Thoughts, or whatever the hell it would be. And today we're going to talk about the culture wars, which do not exist. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about these culture wars in the media that claims the left and the right are in constant battle, and these cities are devastated, and there's this huge influx of people over here, and let's just focus on all the negatives we possibly can. And there is a reason for this, and we all know exactly what it is. Culture wars are good for ratings. Before I made this video, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of research and see what people were saying about this kind of topic as far as the culture wars not being a real thing. Naturally, I went to YouTube and typed in the culture wars are a distraction, and lo and behold, the fifth video down was called "Their Culture Wars Are a Distraction." And then I looked closer and it was me. It was my video from a year ago. And I was talking about this exact topic. Now I don't remember all my videos that I make because I talk to the camera. I don't do editing or anything. So I'll make a video and I'll find it later and be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And the fact that I already made one doesn't lessen the fact that I need to make another one. It seems ever more important to talk about this topic right now, because every year around this time there's a different distraction, something going on. What is it now in the media? The war on Christmas again? That doesn't really exist. That there's this constant battle. The headlines are flashy and they make it seem like the left or the right are causing all these problems. I heard somebody put it earlier. They said it was in the middle of some podcast, and he was saying how he read people online were saying things like that New York was, like Fifth Avenue was completely decimated. And I live near Portland here, so I hear the same thing about Portland. Oh, I've heard that place is just toast. All the stores are bashed and boarded up, and, there's Antifa running through the streets. But no, you go down and you eat your lunch and you go to concerts, and it's a normal town like it's always been. It's had ups and downs like all places have. Yeah, there have been problems. But the illusion people have is given to them not by their own experience or even their own eyeballs. They hear these things and they repeat them over and over to other people, and they're like, I heard that was really bad there. Yeah, it must be really bad. It's just the same way when people tell you that everyone hates America, and people just, yeah, these guys all hate this country. Like, are we really thinking things through? Do we really believe that half of the country is wrong in everything they believe just because we disagree on one policy or forbid a president? To just accuse people of being whatever word of the day there is isn't solving the problem. But not only the culture wars that the news fed into, but that the people fed into. This is kind of a multi-tiered discussion here, and it really has to do with the good old days of the internet. When it was fresh, we didn't have, and it's funny to be old enough to say, oh, the good old days of the internet. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest. But there were some positives and negatives, but the biggest thing was that creators wanted to share just to share. They wanted to share their ideas. You might not agree with them, but it wasn't about your politics. It wasn't about what ideas you were pushing. It was just about being yourself and expression, because we were all sharing this sphere together. And naturally, the progression would be for it to morph into something more like a distraction, like a television, or the 24-hour news, where you're constantly bombarded with all the problems in the world and what's wrong with everyone else. And when you find that being extreme gets the most clicks and the most likes, what is going to be the natural progression for people? Of course, to be more extreme. And in order to be extreme, you have to agree with all the extreme views of your followers to keep your followers. And so we build this false idea of what other people believe and think, and we end up believing it in the end, teaching it to our children, and people grow up believing these things. It's a slippery slope to start demeaning everyone else that we disagree with just for money, just for clicks. It's disgusting, in fact. And it's a huge problem. And it's why the internet has become more of a playground for extremists, or extreme voices rather, that want to scream about all the problems than those who want to make solutions. People are demonized if they have, ideas that we should all maybe have a discussion about things, It's funny when people talk about how we are more civilized in some ways, but if you go back and you look at the news, some of the newscasts from the 60s and the 70s, they would have these long-form discussions with philosophers, scientists, engineers, and they'd talk about the future of the world, intelligent people. Where is that today? It's just people screaming over each other in a room, trying to get the most attention. It's no longer about the topic. It's about the money. It's about the views. And it's unfortunate because that's basically putting us down the same path we were already on with the commercialization of culture. But when you get right down to it, there are no culture wars in the sense that we are manifesting them ourselves. They will exist only if we believe they exist. But if you go out in the real world, not reading what you hear on the internet about the left or the right, or the up or the down, but actually going out and talking to people, you'll stop at places like, when I went out to John Day the other day, we stopped at some little convenience store. And there was this obviously younger liberal girl working with this old cowboy kind of conservative dude, and they were just laughing it up, having a great old time. Co-workers, they understood each other. They didn't give a damn about political boundaries or ideals or whether her hair was pink. It was just about people. And that's what the real world has to offer most of the time. When you go out and you meet people, you find that the extreme ones are very rare. And they're usually quieter. But that's unfortunately why when they're online, they tend to be louder. People clam up really quick when they're in a long-form discussion with somebody. This is why people love long-form podcasts where you can really see what a person's made of when they're speaking for a long period of time, when they're not just giving you tweets or sound bites. A place like Twitter is a perfect example of what a cesspool the internet has really become. It's not about resolving. Any Twitter user will tell you, no matter how useful they find it, that people don't go there to discuss. They don't even go there to debate. They go there to scream and voice their opinions and tell everybody else they're wrong. And nobody can look at the comments and say that I'm wrong on that. The fact that we pride ourselves on that one, outlet, the ability to scream at each other, and that so many people are huge supporters of it, it's interesting to me. I'm not denying social media is useful. Heck, I love YouTube. I love being able to express myself. But I'm not fooling myself when I say that, of course, I'm doing it because I like expressing myself. But if I was out trying to make money and doing this to actually just make cash, I could make some fake restoration videos or fake turtle cleaning videos. I'm sure everybody by now has seen the trends, because the trend has always been some YouTuber makes a video that's really informative, and then that guy goes kind of viral. Then all the other YouTubers make videos about that guy and his discovery, and then it becomes basically a repeat echo chamber, and that's where the authenticity is lost. Nobody's just uploading some stunt they're doing on their bike anymore, or something new they discovered scientifically. It's always like, oh, I saw this trend and I'm gonna do it now, or here's this dance craze and we're all gonna do it now on TikTok. And hey, maybe I just sound like an old man screaming at the sky, but the truth is it's just garbage content. And we're losing that originality because we're afraid to be original. And the saddest thing about that is most of these creators that are copied, the original creators, don't get any credit for their own discoveries or their own dance they came up with, right? It'll be co-opted by some big YouTuber or something, and never give them credit. It's really gross when you look at it from a financial aspect. And one final aspect on this is that people are willing to self-censor in order to not be controversial, and that's sketchy. But I can understand it at certain times if you want to get a point across, because I do it. We all do it. And the reason that I know that we're addicted to that negativity is because it's hard not to get pulled in. I do it. We all do it. You hear a story and you're like, oh, you're outraged about it. You want to talk about it. But it just becomes the story of the day. And the next day it's over. It's a different cultural issue that we have. And I think it comes down to our own personal lives. We want to reflect it on everyone else. It's somebody else's problem. And people, unfortunately, are a lot like sheep, and they become fools in groups. They're like, it's amazing how much we lose ourselves within a group. So when we're believing as a group, we tend to kind of forget who we are. And now we've moved into the age of the influencer, right? That term, which I hate. That we have people who are highly respected and revered. And I'm not one to say don't have heroes, or don't respect people who are majorly influential, but we lost sight of why people were influential. At one time, people invented something, or they continued to help some aspect of humanity. Now it's like a person does one viral video, or they do some one trick pony thing, and then they just keep repeating that same shit over and over. Like a lot of the quote kids content from the say early 20-something guys who were just screaming into the camera, flailing their hands and filling their houses with balls and giving money away and stuff. And that's the kids just say, wow, I want to be rich and I want to be influential. But meanwhile, they're being sold to, and the influencer marketing has become another huge issue that people are finally starting to see through as these products become more and more obviously exposed as scams and garbage that people are willing to put their names behind without even knowing what it is. So now I'm ranting at this point, but I don't want to see the good internet die. And I feel like it's already dying. Some people say, well, we'll move to this place, or we'll move to Odyssey, we'll move to Parler, we'll move to whatever the flavor of the week is. But I don't think the problem is the platform. Even with places like YouTube, the way that this has been a huge issue for creators lately. They'll make a video exposing some sort of fake videos on YouTube, and then YouTube will age restrict the content that's exposing the other content, but let the other content make revenue because they're getting millions of views. YouTube honestly doesn't care about creators. They only care if they're exposed or they're called out by a bunch of people, just not to make waves. But they really don't care about what's right and wrong. There are people making decisions based on money. And I think when people get this through their goddamn heads that it's always about money, it's hard for people to realize that, because these people seem so relatable that they seem to care about what you think and your ideas, but they don't. In fact, it's funny that some of the biggest YouTubers and influencers are the very ones who never respond in person to any of their comments or views, never even a heart or like. They don't give a shit. They don't read the comments. They even tell you they don't read the comments. So people just want to get through to people. They want people to hear them, especially people they respect. But they don't realize these people don't care, They're there to make money. And it's sad, but it's true. And there's a lot of weird shit going on in the world right now. I'm not going to be able to pin it all down in this video, but I don't intend to. It was just to poke at the bear of the culture wars and say that really the culture war that we should be fighting isn't against each other and which cultural beliefs we have as individuals. The true culture war is against a culture of greed and corruption that we all need to recognize that's going on behind closed doors. And this culture war is fed and inflamed as a distraction to keep the American public fighting amongst ourselves, rather than tackling, say, what's going on with the, people want to point the finger, then go to church on Sunday. It's like, not, but are you going to call out your own church and what goes on with the priests there? Or, the different organizations where people go to some special island where, let's just not name names here. I think we all know what we're talking about. There's some gross shit going on in the world, and people are hyper focused on, what kind of flag their neighbor has flying over their house. It's pretty appalling, and I hope that people see it for what it is eventually. I have mixed feelings about it all, because one minute I have hope for humanity, the next I see just our cumbersome nature and our awkwardness that makes us unable to be appeased. And it seems that people are always looking for an enemy, and all through history, religion has kept a lot of people in line. And I'm finally starting to understand why. I don't agree with it, but I understand why it worked. And that fear of doing wrong, it's amazing because when you see that humans really aren't capable as individuals of really understanding anything unless they're in a group. I'm not saying everyone, but I think at this point we can all see that we kind of lose our minds when we can't agree on basic premise of life or where we come from or where we're going. And I don't think we ever will again, so we better get used to it. I'll talk to y'all next time. Be well, take care of each other, don't buy into the culture war bullshit, and please, please, don't make assumptions based on what you hear on the internet. I know it's hard, but you can do as much research as possible. Sometimes you find it's true, but often people don't even look past what they hear on a podcast or a quick soundbite. So do yourself a favor and look into everything. Talk to you next time.